we'll move on to our next session for today, which is going to kind of cover kind of a broad spectrum of things. We're in the ornamental horticulture slash landscape, I guess, category. So we've got questions ranging from flowers to trees to shrubs. And Taylor and I are going to do our best to field some of those questions for y'all today. We were kind of mulling over which ones we would do because we had a lot that came in. So I'm sorry if your question doesn't get answered today, but maybe we can get those answered, like in a, type those answers up and post them somewhere to share with everybody later. But anyway, so let's just start off, Taylor, with this boxwood situation that we were talking about earlier. So we had someone send in a question that says, their boxwoods have a lot of dead wood and dark reddish orange leaves. They've trimmed those shrubs back about a month ago. Well, this question was sent in a while ago, so they probably pruned them longer than a month ago. It says before the new growth came out. So probably this question came in April, probably before that new fresh growth started coming on. So, we see lots of issues at the extension office with boxwoods. Taylor, what are some of your thoughts on things that are actively happening right now for people to keep an eye out for, and any ideas about what might be causing this red orange leaf issue?
Yeah, so
that is too, so we can go back and forth.
Yeah, so we Celeste and I were talking earlier about what this could possibly be, and it's always a great idea if you've got questions to take some good pictures and send them in along with your questions, because that gives us a better idea. Because depending on where the damage is happening, when you say reddish foliage, if it's on the tips, that leads me to believe more so a climate issue, a frost damage, something stressful in the climate. If it's internal, that could be more disease related. Maybe there's not a lot of airflow happening. A lot of our boxwoods are susceptible to quite a few diseases, and everybody automatically goes boxwood blight. It's boxwood blight. That's what I've got. I got to pull them all out and replace these expensive boxwoods. But I will tell you, I have, in the almost 3 years I've been here, I've only gotten one case of boxwood blight, thankfully. Most of the time, it's either an insect stressor, a climate stress, maybe overwatering. The plants don't want to sit in wet feet. If you've got drainage issues, if you've got a downspout that is just putting out right there at those boxwoods, that can really cause some stress. And then some of our more common diseases like Volatile blight, which ends up causing some dieback and some leaf coloration changes. There's a newer to us pest, just boxwood dieback, and where we'll just see a whole side of a boxwood dieback. So really, it could be a number of issues, and to get down to it, good pictures, bringing in samples can really help.
Yes, those are all excellent suggestions and thoughts. I'm completely on board with the wet feet situation, especially with newly installed boxwoods, like itty bitty teeny tiny ones that people are trying to create a small formal hedge with. If those are planted into super heavy clay soils that stay wet, we're going to see this type of leaf coloration on that for sure. I have a homeowner in my county who is struggling with this very same issue right now. The red, orange leaves, they're actually happen on the inside of the canopy, and they're mature dogwoods. I mean, I keep saying dogwoods. They're mature boxwoods.
We knew what you meant.
Some of them are taller than I am, right? 6-7 feet tall. And upon further investigation, we find that they have currently have a spider mite infestation. So initially that causes like a stippling kind of pattern on the leaf, where it's just kind of a little chlorotic looking, but you might not really notice it if you weren't looking closely. So we know that they've been dealing with that. They haven't been pruned in about 5 years. And so, like you said, they're really dense. So we know that there's probably some airflow issues going on there. Some of them are irrigated, some of them are not. And we have taken pictures, we have sent in samples to the lab, and we can't find any kind of disease relation associated with this oranging, yellowing of these leaves. So what we're doing is just trying to treat for the insect pests that we know are there, the spider mites. And we also took a soil sample because they are old and established plantings to see maybe they're nutrient deficient, right? That can cause some crazy different leaf things. And they did need a little bit of nutrition. So we're getting those on a fertilizer program. So unfortunately, there is no one easy, clear answer to this question, but just a lot of things for you to consider in your particular situation.
Yeah.
And to not get discouraged, boxwoods are tough and they can leaf back out even from that old
Yes.
woody latent wood on the inside. So even if you have to do a severe cut back, they'll fluff back out in a year or two. You'll have
Boxwoods are one of our shrubs that can handle a renewal pruning, which is just chop it back to the ground and it'll sprout back out and grow back out. So if you're just really angry one day and you want to cut back something, just chop back that boxwood and let it grow back. Maybe wait till after the summer. It's a little more stressful time to do pruning in the summertime when it's hot. Maybe wait till it's a little bit cooler. But yeah, they can handle some deep pruning.
Good.
You're kindly plant physiology and psychology assistants here this morning.
Always.
We've got a couple of those together, right? Gardening helps ease our minds. So okay, so let's look at another one here. Oh, so I was kind of excited about this question. It says, what is the best practice for applying fungicides preemptively, specifically as it pertains to cut flower production of zinnias? And I got all excited about this because if y'all know me, you know that I love cut flowers. I just like flowers in general, but I really love cut flowers. And it's a growing industry here in Tennessee. We have several established folks over in Middle Tennessee that we know their businesses are going well. We are having some folks enter into that here in West Tennessee, and it's just really picking up some traction. So I know that they're having questions about that, but guess what? We all grow zinnias. I'm sure nearly all of us on this call probably have a zinnia or two in the garden. And so if you have ever grown them, you know that they struggle with powdery mildew as one of the issues, bacterial leaf spots, another issue. There are several leaf spot diseases that we struggle with those zinnia elegans that we grow for the big, beautiful blooms, right? And unfortunately, there are not many cultivars, even though a few tout themselves as being resistant. I maybe wouldn't call them resistant. I would just say, I don't know what word I would use. Maybe
less susceptible.
Less susceptible. There you go. Maybe less susceptible. Like they get it a week later than all the other ones. So there really isn't a lot that we can do in the way of prevention. I have my daughter with me here in the office, so if y'all hear background noise, that was her. I'm sorry. There's not a lot that we can do in the way of prevention. And in cut flower production, I wouldn't even actually worry with preemptive fungicide control on these. What I would do, because you're going to strip that foliage off anyway when you make your arrangements, you're not going to leave the zinnia foliage on that long stem. So what I would do is just plan to have succession plantings about every 2 weeks apart. And that way, when your first crop, once you've harvested the really nice, beautiful, strongest blooms, and that plant starts going downhill, it's okay. You can just pull that crop out and know that you've got another one that's coming on. And that way you have that continual bloom. You're never going to have a period of time where you're without flowers. And at the same time, you're not having to use any fungicides. Does that make sense?
And I would say on the other end of that, with not just zinnias, with fungicide application, it is best done preventatively. And so like Greg mentioned, and Seth, when they were talking about we are humid. And so one of our biggest issues are fungal diseases. So there are a lot of things we can do preventatively to help with that. Creating airflow. Don't pack your zinnias too tight together so you've got airflow, so that humidity and that moisture doesn't sit on the leaves. The same with a lot of our plants, making sure they're not too close to a house or a structure. And then also, if we're going to use fungicides, do it before you see issues. Because once you have it, you're not going to cure what you see. You can help prevent it from spreading. But if you know you've got a problem, say last year I really had a problem with this disease, go ahead and spray preventatively when we're starting to get a little bit warmer, getting wet, where that humidity is rising, when you're getting leaves on your plants, that's when we're going to start to see these fungal diseases. And so making sure that we do that before we have a problem is going to be the best prevention. That and just sanitation practices. When you have a zinnia field and you didn't clean up your old dead zinnia leaves, that's a great place for that disease to overwinter and get back up on the plants the next year. So making sure we're keeping everything clean, we're mulching if we need to mulch, all that stuff can help prevent disease problems.
Excellent. Yay. Good answers. So I hope that helps those out there who might have been struggling with that. And if you just can't stand it and you're not a cut flower grower and you just want pretty little zinnias that have beautiful foliage, then we need to go with some of our hybrids, right? Hybrids with the angustifolia. So look for like crystal white. There's a red yellow bicolor that just came out last year. The Profusion series, those are all beautiful, small landscape type zinnias that have continual bloom all summer long and beautiful clean foliage that you don't have to worry about, but they're short. They're not cut flower type, okay? So good answers there. So we'll do a few more before we move on. What about,
do we want to answer any of these from the chat box that have come in?
What about, I've been trying to keep an eye on the chat box. Most of those are putting up publications of things that we've been discussing, but I did see somebody mention that they had seen Japanese beetles this morning in their garden. And I'm not sure where, does it say where they're from? Pam Duff, I'm not sure where Pam is located in the state, but I was in the Memphis area yesterday and saw 4 Japanese beetles on a canopy.
I believe she said she was from Warren County.
Yeah, so middle, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Williamson County, and I'm pretty sure I saw some chewing on my plants the other day. So they're here.
Yeah, they're here, and I mean, they're a struggle. There's not a lot that we can do like for them as far as preventing them. We just have to anticipate their arrival and tolerate them for their short existence while they are during their, active adult feeding stage. They're going to be a nuisance for us for about 3 or 4 weeks. And then the adults will, they won't be, above ground feeding anymore. They will have gone in the soil to lay their larvae. So
don't use pheromone traps.
Please don't use those. Don't use pheromone traps.
Put them in your neighbor's yard.
Yes.
And then the beetles will go to them.
Yes.
But yeah, there's not much you can do. Walk around with a jar of soapy water and knock them into it. They're attracted to each other as much as they are to your plants. So the more you let sit on your plants, the more that are going to come. So if you stay vigilant with it, that can help. But, they're just a tough pest.
Yes. And if you have some prize plants that you cannot tolerate aesthetic damage, right, to this particular plant, you can spray with insecticides. And I hear from people a lot of times, they're like, that insecticide you told me to use, it kept them for a minute, but it didn't work because they came right back the next week. Well, what you've done is controlled that generation, but you have new adults that are emerging from the ground every single day. So there's no way that we could make one insecticide foliar application and control them for the entire period that they're going to be a nuisance for us. So if you're trying to protect that one specimen piece, you're going to have to stay on top of that with like 7 to 10 day applications, foliar applications. So just keep that in mind. It's working, but there are just new ones that are coming out of the ground once that residual has gone away from that. Anything else you want to add on Japanese beetles, Taylor?
I don't think so. In the chat box, I see the red bud question. And the Vanessa who posted about she planted 2 red buds last fall and 1 died. The other one bloomed out this year, but now the leaves in the top are black and they've got green leaves coming out of the bottom of the tree. I haven't seen pictures, but what it sounds like might be happening is you've got growth coming from the rootstock. A lot of our ornamental trees are grafted, and when the top dies out, what comes off the bottom is usually coming from the rootstock, which is potentially still alive. If the top is brown, it may mean that the top has died out, unfortunately. I've seen that in a Japanese magnolia already this year, and what it'll look like is those leaves coming out of the bottom are not going to look the same as what you planted usually. When they graft, the rootstock is usually a different type than the top part. So the leaves are going to look a little bit different. You can do a test to see if the top is actually dead. You can take your fingernail or a knife or a key and do a scratch test. Scratch that bark back. If it's brown underneath where you've scratched off the bark, probably dead. If it's still green, there's still green tissue there, it means it's still alive. There may be a chance it'll come back out. You can also do the pliability test. I don't like to do this one as much because if you are a little too guns ablazing with it and you can snap a healthy limb off, but bend the limbs a little bit. If they're pretty pliable and they don't break, it could still mean that they're alive. If they snap off really easily, they probably have died back.
All right. We could keep going. We have so many more, and this is so fun for me that we want to leave time for the other sessions as well. So thank you, Taylor, for helping us answer those questions.
Yeah, sorry if I talked too long. I know we had a lot to get through.
No, we didn't. It's perfect timing. I'm just trying to keep us on schedule.